if you are reading this, it means I am gone. Everything you think you know about our family and about Jason is a lie. The handwriting was unmistakable, slightly slanted, elegant, and trembling with urgency. Go to the attic. Don't trust anyone tonight. Read everything carefully. Her mother had passed away that morning. The funeral had been quiet, intimate, the kind of goodbye that felt too gentle for the storm brewing beneath the surface. Emma's father had stayed stoic, too controlled, too perfect in his grief. And then there was Jason, her husband. Charming, handsome, the kind of man who could make strangers feel like old friends. But Emma had begun to notice the cracks in that charm, subtle but insidious, over the last year. Her pulse quickened. Jason was home, waiting in the living room. The air smelled faintly of his cologne and cheap whiskey. Emma felt the note burn in her pocket like a tiny beacon, demanding attention. She swallowed hard, listening to the quiet hum of the house. Every shadow felt heavier than it should, every creak of the floorboards louder. She knew she couldn't ignore it. Not tonight. The stairs to the attic loomed above her, narrow and steep. Dust rose in faint motes as she lifted the trapdoor, the dim light from the hallway casting elongated shadows that danced like silent spectators. Old trunks, cobwebbed furniture, and forgotten memories filled the cramped space. And there, at the far corner, something caught her eye. A wooden chest, carved with intricate patterns her mother had always admired. Emma's fingers trembled as she lifted the lid. Inside lay a bundle of letters, photographs, and a small, leather-bound journal. The first letter, folded carefully, bore her mother's familiar handwriting. Emma, if you are reading this, it means I am gone. Everything you think you know about our family and about Jason is a lie. Her heart pounded. Lies? She sank to her knees, pulling out the next piece. A photograph of her mother and Jason, smiling together at a dinner party. It was dated years before Emma had ever met him. Her mind refused to accept it at first, but the evidence stacked relentlessly. Every photograph, every letter, every page in the journal painted the same picture. Jason had been manipulating her, weaving into her life long before she realized it. A sudden sound upstairs made her jump, a floorboard creak. She froze. Jason's voice called softly from the living room. Emma, are you okay up there? She gritted her teeth, clutching the journal. He doesn't know I know yet. He has no idea. And then she read the last line of the note again, the one her mother had written with finality. The one you trust most is the reason I couldn't stay. Her vision blurred with a mixture of grief, fury, and fear. The truth was out, and with it came a chilling realization. The attic was only the beginning. Every plan her mother had left behind, every warning, was meant to arm her for what was coming. Jason wasn't just a husband. He was a carefully constructed villain in a story that Emma was now forced to finish. The quiet of the attic pressed down, suffocating. But Emma felt something else rise, clarity, purpose, and an unrelenting determination to uncover the full extent of Jason's betrayal and make him pay. Her mother's last act had set the stage, and Emma was ready to step into it. Emma sank deeper into the attic, clutching the journal to her chest. Every letter she unfolded, every photograph she examined, painted Jason not as the loving husband she had married, but as a carefully constructed predator. There were dinner parties she thought were innocent, him laughing beside her at her expense while subtly steering conversations to make her look small, naive, or overly emotional. Every page of the journal confirmed it. Her mother had been watching him long before Emma had ever noticed. Her hands shook as she sifted through the documents. There were financial statements showing unexplained transfers, gifts given to unknown people, and hotel receipts for trips she had never been told about. Emma's chest tightened. The betrayal was more than emotional. It was meticulously planned, systemic, almost surgical in its precision. A photograph fell out, fluttering to the dusty wooden floor. It showed Jason standing arm in arm with her mother at a charity gala years ago, both smiling at the camera, oblivious to the storm that would follow. The date was months before Emma had met him. Her stomach knotted. Why had her mother warned her so late? Why hadn't she said something sooner? A sudden sound made her jump, the faint creak of footsteps on the hardwood stairs. She froze, heart hammering. Emma? Jason's voice was soft, deceptively casual, but each syllable dripped with control. I thought you were in the living room. Is everything okay? Emma pressed a finger to her lips, then whispered to herself. He can't know I know. Her mind raced. She remembered subtle manipulations, The way he always managed to isolate her from friends, the gentle gaslighting when she questioned him, the way he made her feel guilty for asking about small things, trivial things, while he manipulated the world outside their home. And now the proof lay in her hands. She had to act carefully. Her mother's final line echoed in her ears, "The one you trust most is the reason I couldn't stay." It wasn't just a warning, it was a call to arms. The attic had become her war room, and Emma realized the first step was understanding everything, every lie, every manipulation, every hidden motive. She spread the photographs and letters across the dusty floor, organizing them chronologically. Images of Jason with other women surfaced, innocuous at first glance, but the captions on the back revealed meetings, secret arrangements, and moments designed to isolate Emma from her mother, her friends, even her own family. Each revelation burned like acid in her chest. Emma leaned back against an old trunk, breathing heavily, her vision blurred with tears of rage, grief, and disbelief. This man, the one she had loved and trusted with her life, had been weaving a web around her for years. Her mother had seen it, understood it, and left her a trail to follow so that she could escape the trap. Determination hardened in Emma's gaze. She would follow the clues, uncover every betrayal, and hold Jason accountable for every lie and manipulation. The attic, once a place of forgotten memories, was now the command center for her plan. Her phone buzzed again. A text from her mother, sent moments before she died. "Trust no one. The truth is closer than you think." Emma's hands trembled as she read it. She folded the note carefully, placing it atop the stack of letters and photographs. Her mother's final instructions were cryptic but powerful. Emma's thoughts shifted to Jason, downstairs, pretending to grieve, unaware of the storm about to hit. She pictured his smug smile, the way he always assumed control, and it fueled a fire inside her. She would not be a passive victim. Her mother had left her a map through the maze of lies, and Emma intended to follow it to the very end. The attic seemed to close in around her as she traced her mother's handwriting, photographs, and letters with meticulous care. Every scrap of evidence was a puzzle piece, and at the center of it all was the truth about Jason, the man she had once loved, and the reason her mother could not stay. By the time night fell, Emma had uncovered enough to understand the scale of Jason's betrayal, but she knew there was more to discover. The attic had revealed only the surface. What remained was to see how far Jason's lies had penetrated her life and prepare for the reckoning that would follow. The next morning, Emma descended from the attic with the journal clutched tightly under her arm. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Jason was in the kitchen, humming lightly as he poured coffee into 2 mugs. His smile flickered when he saw her, calculated and calm, but it carried an edge now, a subtle undercurrent Emma had noticed before. "Good morning," he said smoothly. "Rough night?" Emma forced herself to smile, masking the storm building beneath her calm exterior. "I couldn't sleep," she said softly, setting the journal on the counter just out of his reach. Jason's eyes flicked to the journal, but he said nothing. Instead, he leaned against the counter, studying her with a gaze that had once felt protective but now felt predatory. "You've been distracted lately," he said, voice low, casual. "Is everything okay?" Emma's stomach tightened. He was testing her, probing for weaknesses. He had always done this, soft words, subtle control, a smile to disarm her while tightening the invisible chains around her. She nodded, forcing composure. "Yes, everything's fine." But everything wasn't fine. Emma knew, now more than ever, that Jason thrived on control. The letters and photographs from the attic had revealed a pattern. He manipulated situations, gaslighted her, and isolated her from those who could see through his charm. The revelation filled her with both fear and a fierce resolve. She spent the day retracing small moments, revisiting her mother's journal entries and photographs. Every sentence, every image, was a thread in a web Jason had spun carefully over years. He had turned her life into a stage, and she had been an unwitting actor in his play. The humiliation she had once brushed off as minor now revealed itself in its full magnitude. Friends she trusted had been subtly influenced, opportunities withheld, and every attempt at independence met with charm-laden sabotage. By evening, Emma had a plan forming. She would confront him, but carefully. The attic had taught her the power of knowledge, and knowledge, she realized, could be weaponized. She would not let fear dictate her actions. Every piece of evidence her mother had left behind would guide her next steps. Jason returned home later than usual, claiming work had run late. His casual manner failed to mask the tension Emma detected immediately. She greeted him with a calm smile, concealing the fury simmering beneath. "Dinner's ready," she said, placing a plate before him, though she barely touched her own. He looked at her, suspicious now, the first real flicker of doubt in his eyes. "You've been quiet all evening," he observed. "Something on your mind?" Emma inhaled slowly. "I've been thinking," she said, voice steady, "about how easy it is to trust someone, and how dangerous it can be when that trust is misplaced." Jason's smile faltered, his predatory confidence slipping just enough for her to notice. He leaned back in his chair, studying her, trying to gauge if she was serious or if this was one of her fleeting moods. Emma held his gaze, unwavering. She spent the next few days collecting more proof, emails, receipts, old messages he had thought deleted, and conversations with friends who inadvertently confirmed suspicions. Each discovery built a picture of Jason not as the husband she had loved, but as a manipulator, a liar, and a man who had spent years plotting control over her life. The humiliation she had endured, the whispered jokes at parties, the subtle undermining of her choices, the way he had isolated her, was no longer invisible. It was concrete, documented, undeniable. And Emma knew, finally, that knowledge alone was power. She was no longer the passive wife in his shadow. She was a strategist, armed with the truth her mother had left behind. By the end of the week, Emma had assembled everything in a small box: letters, photographs, journal entries, and a few digital records. The attic had given her the insight, and now she had the arsenal. Jason's carefully constructed world had a flaw: her clarity, her determination, and her mother's foresight. She waited until he was asleep, then set to work. Every item was arranged methodically, a map of betrayal that even Jason couldn't deny. When morning came, Emma would confront him, not with blind fury, but with the weight of irrefutable truth. The next evening, Jason returned home earlier than usual. Emma was in the living room, sitting on the edge of the sofa, the small box of evidence beside her. Her posture was calm, but her eyes burned with controlled intensity. She didn't flinch as he entered, his usual confident grin faltering slightly. "You're home early," she said softly, almost casual. "Did something change at work?" Jason leaned against the doorway, studying her. He had expected distraction, confusion, maybe even fear. Instead, he found clarity, a calm that unnerved him. "I just finished sooner than I thought," he said, voice careful. "Is everything okay?" Emma didn't answer immediately. She opened the journal, flipping to a page marked with her mother's handwriting. "I found everything," she said, voice steady but sharp. "Every lie, every manipulation, every secret you thought I'd never uncover." Jason's smirk wavered. "Emma, you're being dramatic." No," she interrupted, holding up a photograph. "Not dramatic. Facts." She placed the picture on the coffee table. Him at a dinner party with another woman, smiling, casual, innocent-looking, yet time-stamped months before they had even met. "Do you remember this?" He hesitated, caught. His eyes darted to the stack of letters and photographs she had laid out. It's complicated," he murmured. "Complicated?" Emma echoed, incredulous. "You've been lying to me, to my family, to everyone around us. You isolated me, humiliated me, manipulated me. My mother saw it. She left me everything I need to know. And now I know." For the first time, Jason's mask slipped. His body tensed, the smug charm replaced with unease. He tried to recover, but every move was already mapped out by Emma's careful preparation. Emma reached into the box and pulled out a small envelope. She handed it to him. "Your emails, your receipts, your secret meetings, every bit of evidence of what you've done. It's all here." Jason's jaw tightened. He laughed, a sound meant to disarm, but it came out hollow. "You think you can? What? Destroy me with paper?" Emma leaned forward, eyes locked on his. "I think I can show the world who you really are. I think I can take back my life, and I think my mother would be proud if I do." The air in the room seemed to thicken. Jason's confidence, once a shield, now felt brittle, fragile under the weight of truth. Emma's presence radiated control, clarity, and the inevitability of justice. Suddenly, his phone rang. Jason picked it up, but the momentary distraction revealed something crucial. a message from a business partner detailing another deception he had planned to keep hidden. Emma's eyes narrowed. Each secret, each lie, was unraveling before her. Her mind raced, mapping out the next moves: public humiliation for his arrogance, exposure of financial manipulation, undeniable proof of his infidelity, all consequences precisely calculated. She would dismantle him piece by piece, just as her mother had planned. Jason tried to speak again, but Emma held up a hand. "Save it. I'm listening, but I don't need excuses. The lies are already exposed, and soon, everyone will know." He sat down heavily, the first real sign of fear she had ever seen. Emma felt a surge of vindication but tempered it with patience. Revenge was not about haste. It was about precision, clarity, and the satisfaction of seeing justice unfold exactly as it should. The turning point was complete. Jason's control was fractured. The house that once symbolized her confinement now stood as the arena for his reckoning. And Emma, armed with truth, strategy, and the foresight of her mother, was ready to execute it with meticulous care. The next morning, Emma awoke before Jason. She dressed deliberately, simple, elegant, and unassuming, but every detail chosen to project control and calm. Today, she would act, not react. The small box of evidence rested in her bag, ready to be deployed. Her first stop was Jason's office. Under the guise of needing a document for him to sign, she slipped in unnoticed. The folders she had copied from the attic were ready: financial statements showing transfers to offshore accounts, emails proving hidden meetings, and messages exposing his infidelity. Emma's pulse thrummed with cold clarity. Every secret he had tried to bury would now surface in the light of truth. When Jason arrived later, expecting his usual obedient wife, he was met with a composed, unwavering presence. Emma handed him a folder. "Read this," she said softly, her tone deceptively calm. "You'll recognize everything, because it's all real. Every word, every transaction, every lie." Jason's eyes flicked over the documents, then widened in shock. "Emma, what? How did you?" "I followed the trail," she interrupted. "Just like my mother showed me. You underestimated both of us." He swallowed hard, realizing his elaborate facade was crumbling. Emma watched him carefully. There would be no argument, no charm offensive strong enough to undo the avalanche he had triggered. Every corner of his life that relied on deception now teetered on collapse. Over the following days, she enacted her plan methodically. First, the humiliation. Emma invited Jason's closest friends and colleagues to a dinner, under the guise of a casual gathering. Once there, she presented the photographs, emails, and receipts, calmly narrating the web of lies and manipulations he had woven for years. Each revelation landed like a blow. Friends gasped, colleagues whispered, and Jason's smug demeanor shattered with every exposed betrayal. Next, the financial consequences. Emma presented the copied statements to his business partners, demonstrating fraudulent transfers and hidden deals. Deals collapsed, trust evaporated, and his professional reputation took the first of many hits. Then, the personal betrayals. Messages to women he had tried to hide, gifts and trips kept secret from her, and photographs meticulously catalogued by her mother were shared with those affected. Emma's methodical approach ensured that every lie was documented, undeniable, and emotionally devastating. Jason's world collapsed piece by piece. He had mocked her, isolated her, and gaslighted her for years, but now every act of cruelty returned to him with precision. The man who had once controlled her life found himself powerless, exposed, and humiliated. Throughout it all, Emma remained composed. She did not shout, did not weep, and did not panic. Her mother's guidance had shown her the power of patience, clarity, and strategy. By the end, Jason was left broken in every sense, professionally, socially, and personally. Every manipulation he had relied upon was stripped away, leaving only truth and accountability. Standing in the attic once more, surrounded by the journals, letters, and photographs that had started it all, Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had avenged the humiliation, reclaimed her life, and honored her mother's foresight. The house no longer felt like a cage. It felt like a home she had earned through courage, intelligence, and relentless pursuit of justice. And as she placed the last envelope back into the leather box, she whispered softly to herself, "No one will ever control me again." Weeks passed, and the house that once felt like a prison now pulsed with quiet triumph. Emma moved through it with ease, each step a testament to the life she had reclaimed. The attic, once a place of mystery and foreboding, had become a shrine of truth, a reminder of her mother's foresight, her courage, and the path she had forged from grief to power. Jason had vanished from social circles and business meetings alike. His carefully maintained reputation lay in ruins. Colleagues no longer trusted him, friends had distanced themselves, and his personal betrayals had spread through his network like wildfire. Every attempt at charm, manipulation, or denial had failed. He was left stripped of influence, credibility, and respect. Emma did not gloat. She did not linger on his failures or relish his downfall. Instead, she focused on the life ahead. Each morning she walked through the sunlight streaming into the living room, allowing herself to breathe fully for the first time in years. She took small, deliberate steps, reconnecting with friends she had avoided, repairing the subtle damage caused by Jason's manipulation, and honoring her mother by living openly and honestly. One afternoon, she climbed the attic stairs again, brushing her fingers over the worn trunks and dust-laden photographs. Her mother's handwriting on the journal pages seemed to glow in the muted sunlight, and Emma felt a connection she had feared lost forever. "The one you trust most is the reason I couldn't stay." Those words, once a warning, now rang as a testament to survival, resilience, and justice. Emma allowed herself a small smile. She had learned something profound. Betrayal could not last against preparation, knowledge, and unwavering resolve. Cruelty could be exposed and dismantled, but dignity endured. The attic had shown her the depth of deception, and her actions had ensured the consequences were precise, unavoidable, and just. She placed the journal and photographs carefully back into the leather-bound box. The evidence that had once symbolized her mother's warning now represented triumph over manipulation, proof that careful attention and courage could restore balance. Outside, the world continued its indifferent rhythm. Cars passed, neighbors laughed, the city hummed with ordinary life. But inside, Emma felt the extraordinary weight of victory, the quiet, unwavering power of someone who had faced betrayal, fear, and deception, and emerged whole. Standing at the window, she whispered to herself, a vow carried on the wind. In the end, arrogance crumbles, but dignity survives. And for the first time in years, Emma allowed herself to hope, not just for safety, but for happiness, freedom, and the kind of love that no manipulation could ever tarnish. She had survived, she had avenged, and she had learned the ultimate lesson, that the truth, when discovered and wielded wisely, was unstoppable.